Joining us now on the line, Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan, retired Marine, although there really are no retired Marines. You're just on active duty anymore. Also a Fox News military analyst. Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan, how are you this morning?
I'm doing good, Brian. Good to be with you. Larry, glad you're back. Hope you're feeling better.
Hey,
today.
thanks. I appreciate it, Colonel.
All right, so shooting at the Navy Yard yesterday, 12 dead, 13 counting the actual shooter, and a number of people who were injured. Talk to me about the Navy Yard. You've been there. What is the level of security there?
Brian, I haven't been there for a while, but a couple things strike me about when I used to go there. And one thing is there was, and I believe still is, a museum of some sort, which the Navy would like the public to have access to. Also, the Navy historical records are all kept over there, so individual researchers, academics, people with an interest in the Navy history can go over there. So the level of security at the main gate is not always at the highest level because that base isn't traditionally one of our highly sensitive areas, like if you're trying to get into the Pentagon itself or you're trying to get into the CIA or NSA.
But Building 197 was the NAVC command headquarters.
And that's different.
That's a different animal.
Exactly. Getting on that base, or most bases, frankly, including Quantico, where I go to fairly often, getting on those bases is not such a big problem. The issue is once you get on the base, if you're going to be granted access to a particular building. And I thought I heard something yesterday, and you guys know better than me. You got to be following every news outlet 24/7 to get the whole story. I thought I heard something mentioned yesterday that perhaps a security guard in that building was shot by this guy, and that his gun was taken. Now, whether that was, whether that's the story now or not,
I think that's an open question. In fact, how he got his guns is still an open question. We'll explore a little bit later. But you had to have a different level of security clearance to get into the building, right?
Well, you had to have a pass of some sort,
right.
And it is being reported by the FBI that he had a pass to at least get into the building as a contractor. So, the question is what he had to do to get through that level of security in the building with the weapon, and whether he was able to take somebody else's weapon from that point or whatever. I heard talk to
just one more question about that. No, there are no magnetometers though at those security checkpoints. I understand.
There should be. And listen, I go into buildings on occasion. I still have my security clearance. I go into various government buildings around here on occasion where I go through a magnetometer, whatever the right word is. And there are people standing right there, just like you're going through TSA at the airport, and they watch me come through, and they check and see what I have. They look in my briefcase. They go through my bags. And so I don't know in that particular building. Now, that's an important building for the Navy. They've got a lot of responsibilities there. But the level of security, the level of clearances, the level of top-secret information going on in that building on every level, I'm not sure. And there may be other levels inside that building where there are increased levels of security, like you can't get your elevator pass to take you to the 5th floor, as an example. Or if you get to the 5th floor, you have to have some special access code to get into the various rooms up there. So any given building may have different levels of security. It's doubtful that everybody in that building had the same level and went through the same kinds of levels of security to gain access to the building itself or individual rooms.
Very quickly on that point, the Vice Admiral's office was on the 4th floor. And that's where the shooting took place. So one assumes that's a pretty secure level.
It should be. And at least the area where he is ought to be pretty secure. And maybe that would include some additional door to get through, some particular access code to punch on the pad there. So, again, levels of security kind of relate to what's going on in an individual room. The building in general, maybe he had to go through a magnetometer, maybe not. But it appears, it seems reasonable that getting on the base, I don't think, is a terrible problem most anywhere. If you drive your car on, you may have to get out, show your ID, show your driver's license, that. But they don't typically, unless there's a very high level of security for some reason, threat level, they're not typically going to go through your whole vehicle and look for something being hidden in there.
Fox News military analyst Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan is our guest. And Colonel Cowan, if you can speak for a moment about the cooperation between civilian entities and the military, specifically that occurred here at the Navy Yard in Building 197. We know that all of the casualties are civilians, and this murderer Aaron Alexis, he was former Navy. He was working for a civilian outfit. What's the relationship there? Why were so many of the victims civilians and not active duty military, considering this was at a military base? And could this lead us to some understanding as to the motive behind this attack?
Well, Larry, as you know, as many of your listeners know, in fact, most of these government facilities around here that are even military facilities are staffed almost predominantly with civilian contractors and people working for big contractor companies, and who just go to work every day like the rest of us. They go to work just like their military counterparts. I don't have any idea what the relationship is or what the ratio is, between military and civilians in that particular command. But if you went down to Quantico as an example and watched people coming and going in and out of the gates during work hours, start of the day and end of the day, you'd see that the vast majority of them, probably well over 50%, maybe 60%, are civilian contractors who are coming and going to do their jobs there. It may be just absolutely random that he didn't run into any military people, or maybe because of his own military background, he did run into some in uniform and elected not to shoot at them. That may be something that comes out during the investigation. But you're absolutely right. When I heard the numbers that everybody there was a civilian, and nobody in the military, I found that a little bit interesting, and there has to be some reason for that.
And really,
certainly military people there in uniform.
Really fast, Colonel Cowan, we're told that he has, with his job, he had secret clearance. What level of clearance is that, and is that significant? We're told that there was no psychological background check for a secret clearance.
No, Larry, I think what's going to happen, I think that'll be a news item throughout the day here, the fact that he did have a secret clearance, and it'll be a news item because of the guy Edward Snowden, who had a security clearance and leaked all the secrets from NSA. But a secret clearance is very easy to get, a minimal background check. You can grant somebody can grant an interim secret clearance where the guy has almost virtually nothing done. You do a local records check. Has he been in trouble with the law? If he has, well, what was the level of trouble in the law?
Right.
Oh, an accidental gunshot, this, that. We'll give him a secret clearance. So it'll become a story, but most people in this town that work for government have some level of clearance, usually a secret. And when you get deeper into things that are much more sensitive, and then you'll start getting the top secret, and then top secret with other caveats.
And then like the uber duper super secret top clearance, like Lieutenant Colonel Bill Cowan has. He can kill a man with one finger, you know.
Yeah, I wouldn't be.
I don't want to know.
As long as it's a trigger finger.